Hello, it is Jack Gill and welcome back to Redmen Academy. I am, as always, joined by James McHale for this one. If you haven't yet checked out our interview with Neil Mellor last week, it was fantastic. Please go and check that out. It's a really good video and that Neil has done with us, and he gives us some insight into the youngsters and what his career was like as a youngster at LFC. So yeah, go and check that one out. And give it a like and a comment if you want. And also, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you click that button for all the latest content surrounding youth football, particularly Liverpool. This is just a bit of a youth roundup. We've not done this in a while, James. This is the stuff that we usually do in the youth show, which is over on the redmentv.com. If you haven't subscribed to them as well, make sure you do. It's something that we usually do on there with a youth show that we do weekly. But we had to do it this week with everything that's happened. We've had a brilliant weekend for youngsters in the Premier League. I'm going to kick it off with Curtis Jones, the story of the weekend for us Liverpool supporters, really. He got his first Premier League goal on the same week that he signed a new long-term deal with the Reds. Now, there's been a lot of discussion surrounding Curtis Jones in the last few weeks, James, and months, talking about whether he'll replace Adam Lallana when Adam Lallana looks set to leave in the summer. And, you know, it was just a perfect week for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's obviously he only signed a contract, about 12 months ago now, and I think this was more a sign of how far he's come in the last year or so, and now where he's viewed in terms of, squad, where he's going to be travelling week in, week out next season, and it sort of gives us the idea that he is going to have that squad role next season, and he probably will be the player who'll be turned to, when we need to replace Adam Lallana.
Yeah, he's just had a phenomenal season, hasn't he? And we spoke to Neil about this, how much he's impressed with the under-23s. And, I think when you mentioned that he signed that 12-month deal, he was in a complete different situation. Sorry, when he signed the deal 12 months ago, he was in a complete different situation than the one he's in now. He'd just come off the back of that game against Wolves where he'd not really impressed. There was talks of him going out on loan, but he didn't, and he ended up getting the armband in the under-23s. And impressing as he has done all season. And the difference with Curtis Jones this season is when he has been given his opportunities in the first team, he's taken them with both hands and really impressed. And his first goal at Anfield, which was a stunner against Everton, and now his first goal against in the Premier League, against Aston Villa, which was equally as good. Because what impressed me, James, it wasn't necessarily the finish and the scrappy way that it ended up in the back of the net, but it's the fact that he was involved in different phases of that move as well. And it was a brilliant goal. He almost started the move from left back.
Yeah, it's strange to see someone, in our midfield getting involved so early on and then sticking around and arriving into the box later on to finish off the move too, because we're that used to seeing our attackers and our fullbacks be the creative ones and be the ones that, get us the goals. It's nice to see a youngster come into that midfield and really take the game out of scruff its neck and seal the win, because until then it was still a very edgy match, wasn't it, even at 1-0?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of them games that it wasn't very entertaining. The first half was very, very dire, and all of the substitutes changed the game, really. I thought Naby Keita was exciting in the midfield as well. But Curtis Jones, when he came on, he really provided an additional spark, and that's what you like to see when you shove a youngster on the pitch. And, it was just a brilliant way to round off what was a perfect week for Curtis Jones. And there's so much more to come from this youngster. I'm so excited to see it. And like you say, the fact that we saw him sign a new contract just 12, 18 months ago, and now he's got this one, shows how important he's going to be now under Jurgen Klopp and the plans we have for him at the club.
Yeah, definitely. The sky's the limit for him. And, we've spoken about how his attitude's also fixed up as well as his football ability over the last year. And ultimately, he's going to go as far as he's willing to go, because we can see that he's got the ability to score, he's got the ability to create, and he has seemingly now got that work ethic to keep working hard. So it's hard to see where he's going to be in a few years, but we know he's going to be at Liverpool and he's going to be hopefully a central player for us.
He did a brilliant interview at the end as well, didn't he? And after the game, and this is something Curtis Jones has struggled with in the past. But like his game, he's improved with how he talks to the media and everything. He's just matured as a player and as a person. And it's a very, very good interview from a Scouse lad that's living his dream, really playing for the club that he loves. And yeah, I think this is just the start for Curtis Jones. I'm so excited to see what's to come from this lad. And next season, as he gets more involvement in the first team, I think he's shown this year that he's capable of living up to that Adam Lallana role when Lallana goes. And I think he'll be a brilliant player going forwards. We also got to see Neco Williams come on the pitch as well. And though we didn't see too much from him, it's a step in the right direction for him to get his Premier League medal.
Yes, definitely.
So that's good news. And we've had another youngster tie up a new contract. This was announced today, the day we're filming. Harvey Elliott has signed a new contract, his first team contract. Obviously, he's not long turned 17. We've been expecting this for some time, James, but I think the lockdown and the lack of youth football probably delayed it a tiny bit. But it's more fantastic news, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I know we've said, at times this season that he's still very raw and he hasn't got that, he's got that little bit of unpredictability to his game. But even then, he's still got, 5 assists in the youth league in 7 games. He's got that he's got that spark that we were talking about with Curtis Jones when he gets the ball and you don't know what he's going to do. And having someone like that in the first team, when we're that used to seeing how the first team play, having that sort of wild card who you don't know what he's going to do, whether he's going to play on the left, or he's going to play on the right, whether he's going to try and score, whether he's going to be a creator. He's such an exciting player to have in that first team, and he's someone that you really want to see, pushing for minutes.
Yeah, and he's a player that has excited a lot of people, like Curtis Jones when he's got on the pitch this year. The MK Dons and Aston Villa games in the Carabao Cup in particular were real eyebrow raisers from this young lad. And 16 at the time, looking like that in games. I think the MK Dons one was his debut, and he should have scored that day. He came so close to it, and he was trying absolutely everything to get a goal, bless him. And against Aston Villa, I mean, it was always going to be a uphill task with the team we had to put out that day. But he absolutely ran the show that game. And I know the score sheet doesn't show it, but we were on top for big parts of that game. And it was down to Harvey Elliott and Kajana Hoover on the right-hand side. Their link-up was fantastic. And every time he got the ball, you were on the edge of your seat. You thought he would be the man that would create something. And for a lad of 16 to be doing that against a team that had Premier League players, is just fantastic. And I think it's really good that we've managed to tie him down to a long-term first-team deal now. And hopefully he's another player that we see more of next season. I mean, there's that gap that's opened up with Curtis Jones, with Adam Lallana leaving for Curtis Jones. And maybe we'll see Shaqiri going and players like that would lead for more of an opportunity for Harvey Elliott as well. So it'll be interesting to see next season what happens with Harvey Elliott, how much first team action he gets and how close he gets to the first team. But I think it's also, we've also got to be careful with this lad because he's only just turned 17 and he's got a lot of time ahead of him. And though he's probably more than good enough for first team football at some clubs now, he's at the best club in the world and he's got to be managed perfectly, really. We've seen things in the past with youngsters maybe getting a bit too big for their boots and stuff like that. So hopefully with Harvey Elliott, everything is good. But it's not long before this lad gets more first team minutes. He's an outstanding player, and I'm so glad we've got this him tied down. He said, speaking on the deal, he said, I think since the first day I walked in, it's been an indescribable journey so far. I think now to top it off with my first professional contract is a dream come true for me and my family. James, another lad who's a Liverpool fan as a boy, it must be a brilliant feeling for these lads who support Liverpool as a youngster, and then the minute they can do, they get a first team contract for the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about bringing in the best youngsters, but it's also the right kind of youngsters. And bringing in lads who are already, before they've even kicked the ball for the club, live and bleed Liverpool. It's it's what you want to see, isn't it? It's their dream to play for that first team. It's not just a route to the top. It's them getting to do what they've always wanted to do growing up. And it's seeing him, he's going to be absolutely loving every single moment of this climb. And it's having it so soon as well. He's going to have that hunger to keep getting better and wanting more and more and more. And he doesn't seem like the kind of lad that's going to be like, okay, I've got my Premier League medal. I can put my feet up now. He's going to want to be in that first team week in, week out.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, only 3 games off Phil Foden's record of becoming the youngest Premier League winner, which would be brilliant. And I hope he gets some. What have you made of that, James? We've seen Neco Williams come on for the last 3 games now, Nico Williams, and we saw Curtis Jones come on at the weekend. I can't speak today. I don't know what's wrong with me. We've not yet seen Harvey Elliott since the restart, I believe. Do you think it's only a matter of time, and we've just got to be careful about throwing too many youngsters on at once?
Yeah, I mean, there's no need to throw them on if you don't need to. It's just about managing the game and managing their game time as well. Because if we're in a tricky situation, the last thing you need is to throw on a kid with a lot of pressure, expect them to do something. And then inevitably, when they do make a mistake, which they will because they're kids, you don't want the fan base turning on them out of frustration. Because obviously, we know how good they are, but in that moment, we could say, oh, well, why is he being brought on and why is such and such being brought on in his place we experience? So bringing on someone in an attacking position when we've looked a little bit soft up front maybe mightn't be the best thing for him right now.
I mean, it is hard as well with Elliott because you've got Salah who's after the golden boot, and Mane on the other side. You've got also like Origi, Minamino, Shaqiri coming back from injury, players like that. We've got an abundance of players that can play in a similar position, so it is harder for Harvey Elliott. And I do wonder that he might be one of the players that Klopp was alluding to when mentioning what he said in the presser the other day about the medal and actually. A ridiculous rule, and I do agree with him because as we saw from Curtis Jones, he's not really played too many Premier League minutes this season, but now he's had a vital part to play in our season. He scored a goal that's gone towards us getting 3 points, but he still has to play 5 games to get a medal. It's a bit bizarre, but yeah, I can kind of understand it, I suppose. A player, James, that we'll move on to talk about now is Rhian Brewster, who. Since lockdown has really been hitting the headlines. And we'd spoke about him before lockdown and the impact he'd had on Swansea. He'd been getting the odd goal, but he hadn't really hit the ground running too much. I think it's fair to say he hadn't been phenomenal for them. He got the odd goal, but that was about it. But since lockdown, he has been on fire. He scored numerous goals for them. And he's looking like the man who's going to push them towards the championship playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, he's got 3 and 5 since play resumed. He's got 7 and 14 starts this season for them altogether, and he's looking like the player that we knew he could be. We knew that he was that clinical player in the box, and now he's making us look like he's that replacement for Sturridge that we thought he could have been, and he still can be in the future because he has got time on his side. And I think next season he's found a level where he's comfortable at now. Next season, he'll be looking to push on maybe for a lower Premier League side, get some more minutes, maintain that level, and then look to keep building on it because we can see what he's good at. And maybe that's not what we need right now, but he's going to need minutes, and he's too good to just leave sitting on the bench all the time.
Yeah, and before lockdown, I sort of thought that a loan next season was a necessity for Brewster and constantly getting those minutes. And I still stand by that. I think that, he's had a short-term loan and we're seeing the benefits he's getting from it. I think I saw someone say the other day, who was the last youngster that Liverpool had that benefited from the loan system, and we'll talk about Harvey Kane in a minute. You get all these young players that, go out on loan at Liverpool, but we never really see them getting near the first team again, and Curtis Jones is an example of one of those who, denied going out on loan, and we're seeing his successes now at Liverpool this season. Rhian Brewster, I think, was one of them that's on the other side of it, where actually you could tell he was crying out for loan. The situation he was in at the time, to get anywhere near the Liverpool squad in the future, he needed that loan move. He needed regular first team football, and that's what he's getting now. And he's showing exactly what he is as a striker. He's a goal scorer. That's the type of player he is. I've spoken before. Maybe Brewster's role in this Liverpool side going forwards isn't as a number 9 or a false 9, how Klopp likes us to play with it. Maybe as a winger, because he's got a burst of pace and he's a goal scorer like Mohamed Salah. He's a natural goal scorer. He likes getting in the right position at the right time, and it may be that's where he goes going forward for Liverpool. But we've seen from his loan move at Swansea, and we spoke about it before we went there with the under-23s, how his game was being changed to try and be more like Firmino, and that's not the striker he is he?
Exactly, yeah. And we know, we can see, this loan move's been evident of what he's good at. He was never going to be that deep lying player who's also going to be getting to the box. He was good at linking up play, but he's even better at scoring goals. And he can see he just wasn't in a good situation at Liverpool, and that's probably no one's fault. It just wasn't a great time for him at the moment. Anyway, trying to get back into fitness, travelling with the first team, not playing, missing out on minutes, not getting match fit. Then it was a vicious cycle. He just needed to go somewhere where he could put his head down and just play.
Yeah, it was a mixture of things. I mean, I think the perfect thing to point towards when you're talking about this is Brewster was put under pressure with all these links to, or he can be the perfect person to fill the gap that Sturridge leaves and fill in the boots that Sturridge left behind. But he was just coming back from injury, and you had Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain saying at the same time that he needs to get more and more minutes together himself to get back in the flow of it after his injury, and that minutes here and there are a good thing, but until you get consistent minutes, then you're never really going to be in the flow of things. And that's exactly the case with Ryan Brewster. He's getting minutes in the under-23s one week, and then the week after he'd be needed in the travelling squad, but getting nowhere near the pitch. And it was one of them moments where he just needed minutes at first team level, and that's what he's now getting at Swansea. And he's impressed, and he's showing the world what he can do and what we know he can do, and that is score goals. And you speak about movement and trying to play in that false nine position, which doesn't come natural to him, but his movement is still very good. But in an attacking sense, he loves getting on the end of it. He loves getting in a position where he can score goals, and we're seeing that at Swansea. But we also saw the other week against Millwall. I think he didn't have the best of games. He went under the radar, but then you get a dead ball situation, a free kick, and he ends up forcing a goal from it and getting a point for Swansea as well, which is, as I've said before, is the sign of a star when you don't need too many chances. You don't have to be looking too good to just get one opportunity and put it away. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ryan Brewster. Let us know in the comments what you think should happen going forwards. Now Liverpool aren't going to sign Timo Werner. Would you like to see Ryan Brewster get minutes for Liverpool next season and be, an option up front for us? Or do you think the best thing for him is a loan move elsewhere, maybe another Championship loan, maybe a Premier League loan, maybe Swansea again if they're to come up through the playoffs? Let us know down below. Another player who was out on loan this season, James, is Harvey Kane. Now, Harvey Kane is a player that we spoke about before, a player that Liam, the man behind the ones and twos for us, knows a lot about. He went to Doncaster last season. Not too many people knew too much about him then. He was our under-23s captain the season before that. He really impressed at Doncaster last year, and his former manager at Doncaster, Grant McCann, of course, who's now at Hull, wanted him at Hull this year and got him at Hull from January. He's had a torrid time of it, James, hasn't he? For lockdown, he was announced as out for the season with an injury. The season is then able to recommence after a break, and he's fit again and ready and raring to go. He scores 2 free kicks in 2 games and then gets injured and limps off, and now he's out for the rest of the season. I think with Harvey Kane, James, it's one of them situations where I don't see him staying at Liverpool now. I think he's benefited from the loan moves for himself personally, and I think he is a Championship player. He'll get nowhere near our first team at the moment, so I think the best thing for him to do, and I think what will happen now, is that he will move on. I know Hull are a team that will want him permanently. I think they're in a situation where they might go down to League One. Well, what do you make of it? Because for me, I think sell, and we won't get too much money for him, but I think it's the right thing for him to do in his career now. I think for him to move on is perfect, and he's got to the situation now where that's the best thing for him to do.
Well, he's had that taste of first team football, hasn't he? Where he's not going to want to go back to playing youth football. You could tell at the start of the season, the first half of the year, that he didn't really seem completely up for it. He obviously had that good loan spell last year, then was stuck back playing youth football again now, and you can see he's got that hunger in him to keep playing at the highest possible level that he's capable of playing at. And it was just a shame to see someone who is of good quality, and we obviously saw that with Doncaster last year, playing with other kids, playing with 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. He's above that level. He's a Championship level player. We've seen that now, and I think obviously the whole boss McCann has said that they would like to have him back next season, possibly longer as well, to He's obviously done enough to impress, whatever level that'll be. I think he'd absolutely love to get his career on track with McCann.
Another Liverpool youngster that's brilliant with a free kick as well. So we've seen that in recent weeks. But yeah, I do think it's best for him to move on. You know, he's a great player, but he's a level below Liverpool Football Club, and you know, as we both said there, he's a Championship player, and he's shown at Doncaster and Hull how good he is for clubs like that. And I think he's thriving in a situation where he's playing regular first team football, and he just ain't going to get that at Liverpool. So I think it is best for him to move on now. And he'll be a player that we'll closely follow because I think he's capable of being a very, very good player. We've seen that. And, you know, I was lucky enough to see him at Doncaster last season, and he's a very good passer with the ball. He's a very, very good midfielder, but, you know, it's for a youngster, and he's very capable of being a Premier League player in the future. But right now, I think the best thing for him to do is maybe make his loan move to Hull permanent in the summer. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, how much we're willing to sell him for, and different stuff like that. But I know there was a situation at one point as well where I think it was rumoured that he wasn't happy staying around in Liverpool's under-23s, and he did want a loan move, which he then got, of course. But he's just had a torrid time with injuries. But hopefully he can stay fully fit next season and get first-team football somewhere. That's the important thing for Harvey Kane. We've got to move elsewhere now, away from Liverpool, and talk about two youngsters that have made the headlines this weekend, James. Firstly, we've got to talk about Mason Greenwood. We can't not. He's impressed me all season. There were lots of comparisons to Ryan Brewster, we spoke about a minute ago, of course, at the start of the season. I never get why people do that, but you know, it's just a thing about football Twitter, isn't it? But wow, he's a brilliant player, isn't he, James?
Yeah, he's a special player. You know, 40 games this season at senior level. He's got here 15 goals and an assist as well. Absolutely ridiculous. He sort of came out of nowhere at the start of the year, and he's just made a name for himself. He's just enjoying football, isn't he? He saw a United team that's in quite a sad state of affairs up front, and he saw that as an opportunity to force his way in. And you know, now he's a consistent starter week in, week out.
He's joined a very good list as well of you know, players in Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler, and Wayne Rooney to score that many goals in their first season as an 18-year-old. So, you know, he's a fantastic player, and we're seeing. I don't think he has a weak foot. You can see that from his goals.
Brilliant finish.
Two incredible finishes, one with each foot, and you know, he's a player that has got so many more years ahead of him as well. And, you know, for England as well, I think Gareth Southgate will be very happy with his first season. But, yeah, just to have a first season like that in the Premier League, and Man United have really, really needed him this season. You know, he's a youngster that they've really needed his goals and assists. And you saw at the weekend against Bournemouth, he pops up again with two very, very good finishes for them. And I think a lot's been said over the weekend since then about the goals for Martial, Rashford and Greenwood this season, and how many they've scored. And they've been brilliant for Manchester United, as bad as Manchester United have been at times this season. Mm-hmm. The consistent thing have been that those three have kept scoring.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been let down by the defence, and that's been the case for years now. But having Greenwood come into that team, it's sort of distracted a lot of people from, you know, on the whole, quite a poor season for United. Okay, they've picked up since the, you know, obviously lockdowns ended, the football's resumed, but he's kept things going, and he's bought, I think, Ollie a little bit more time, and he's got sort of stabilised the ship a little bit, hasn't he? Having a young player come through is always good news. It's always good PR for a club. You know, we were saying when Trent came through, it was brilliant, wasn't it? Seeing someone young living the dream week in, week out, it was a constant good news story. And for United, it's exactly the same with Greenwood. He's got that England starter written all over him. Van Persie-esque finisher. He's rapid. He's got absolutely everything to go straight to the top.
Yeah, and a lot of people talk about Jadon Sancho to United at the minute. Obviously, he's an upgrade on Mason Greenwood, but is that a position where they really need to strengthen, James? Because obviously Greenwood's only just finding his feet. This is his first season. You only expect him to get better from here. Is a man like Jadon Sancho someone who they should be looking at, or should they be trying to strengthen other areas?
I mean, I think United are all right up front. I think they've kind of got their midfield now together. It's the defence United need to look at. They need to bring in some reinforcements, some young players. But I don't want to say that because then they'll be an absolute force because they have finally, unlocked Pogba. It's only took, 4 or 5 years, but they're finally getting the best out of him. They've got an exciting, still quite young attack, and Greenwood seems to be sort of the last piece to that puzzle.
Yeah, it's a shame because it wasn't that long ago. I was talking about how far off it Man United were looking. They signed Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba comes back, and Bruno Fernandes has been very key for them. But Mason Greenwood's just got so much better in recent weeks and months as well. He's a player that, as I said there, it's his first season in Premier League football. It's very important to remember that and to hit the ground running with numbers like Fowler, Owen, and Rooney. He's just magnificent, and this is a player that we really need to keep our eye on. And as you say, I'm sure Gareth Southgate will be as well with it when it comes to England. I saw something this morning about him being called up soon, but who knows? He's a very good player, and let us know what you think about Mason Greenwood in the comments. And the second one is an unfortunate story this week. It's Bukayo Saka has signed a new deal with Arsenal. And there were numerous things in the last few weeks saying that this was going to happen. It was confirmed over the weekend. James, it's only an unfortunate story because we both spoke before about how much we want him at Liverpool. He would have been a perfect understudy to both Andy Robertson and Sadio Mane, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was always going to happen. He was always going to stay at Arsenal. But I'm still gutted nonetheless. As I was saying to Ross on Twitter that I feel like I've wasted months of hyping him up on podcasts, over YouTube, on Twitter, just for him to, inevitably sign the Arsenal contract. But he's a brilliant player, and they were going to move heaven and earth to keep him because he has, like Greenwood, been one of those bright sparks this season in otherwise quite a miserable time for their clubs. And he's got that ability from defence to bring the ball forward to initiate attacks, and for an 18-year-old to be doing that, so, almost unheard of.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player, and of course scored an important goal for Arsenal against Wolves at the weekend as well. But yeah, just before we wrap it up, another player that I want to briefly speak about, James. I'm throwing you under the bus here. I know I didn't put it in the agenda, but Tariq Lamptey, a player that I couldn't just not mention. He's a player that I'm very fond of, let me just say. He played for Chelsea under 23s earlier on in the season against Liverpool and ran the game. Yeah, he got sent off later in the game, but he was all over the pitch. He was phenomenal. Signed for Brighton in January, and he's played a lot since the restart, James, and he's looked brilliant, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's one of those players that he needed to make that move in order to keep progressing. You could see how good he was for Chelsea, but realistically, he was never going to get those minutes. And Brighton seems like quite a sensible move for him. Graham Potter's playing some good football. Okay, the results have taken a while to come in. They're not completely safe yet, but they're playing decent football, and that suits him to a T, where he's used to being able to play that attacking football, that free-flowing football for his time at Chelsea's youth academy. And it's hard to see where his future is going to be, how far he's going to go, but on his ability alone, he's a very good player.
He's a confident new breed of fullback that, he's a young lad as well. So I knew he wouldn't look out of place in the first team at Brighton. I thought it was a brilliant move. I tweeted back on deadline day in January that it was the best move of deadline day, and it went under the radar. And I think people are starting to see now just how good he is. He looked really, really good since the restart, and he's a player that we definitely need to keep our eye on. I think he's in the right position. I think Brighton was the perfect club for him to go to. It's a Premier League club that he's going to get regular first team football for, that like to play football, and that's what Tariq Lamptey needs at this point in time. And he's a cracking little young lad. So yeah, definitely one we'll be keeping our eye on next season. Good to see Tony Gordon getting consistent minutes for Everton as well. That's another important thing. He played again tonight against Tottenham. But yeah, thank you for joining me, James, for this one. We'll be back in a few days for another video. Remember to check out that Neil Mellor interview if you haven't yet. And we shall see you soon. Just a polite reminder that Liverpool are the champions of the Premier League. Thank you and good night.